Te koto te whānau o Aotearoa Unitarians. Te koto nā manahiri. No mai, haere mai, ki tēnei hui topa o te atua. Te koto tēnā tātou katoa. Welcome to all from near and far to our virtual sanctuary. We live in a time when fewer and fewer come to church. This is especially true in Aotearoa, New Zealand. That got me wondering why you take the trouble during a pandemic to still come, even though it is on Zoom and there's no morning tea. Notice I asked why you come and not we come. I know why I come, 2 reasons. Since I was 5, I have rarely missed a Sunday. I am clearly a creature of habit. And 2, you pay me to come. Actually, there's a 3rd reason I'm here. I like surprises. I like mysteries. Sundays offer both. Gretchen Haley must feel the same way. For our opening words, I offer her forged in the fire of our coming together. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? In these days, we find ourselves too often stuck with these questions on repeat. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? We grasp at signs and markers, articles of news and analysis, Facebook memes and forwarded emails, as if the new zodiac, capable of forecasting all that life may yet bring our way, as if we could prepare, as if life had ever made any promises of making sense or turning out the way we thought, as if we are not also actors in this unfolding story. For this hour, we gather to surrender to the mystery, to release ourselves from the needing to know, the yearning to have it all figured out, and also the burden of believing we either have all the control or none. Here is our song and our silence, our stories and our sharing. We make space for a new breath, a new healing, a new possibility to take root. That is courage, forged in the fire of our coming together, and felt in the spirit that comes alive in this act of faith, that we believe still a new world is possible, that we are creating it already, here and now. So come, let us worship together. If you have a chalice or a candle, it's time to light it. We come together every week, bound not by a creed or a mutual desire to please one God or many gods. Yet we are drawn together by a belief that how we are in the world, who we are together, matters. We light this chalice together in the knowledge that love, not fear, can change the world. It's been a while since I've let you sing Spirit of Life, so I will play this version of it. Well, moving back to the theme of our day, I want to begin by reading something by Robin Bartlett. entitled Losing My Religion. I somehow lost my chalice necklace on Commonwealth Avenue in Boston. The same day I lost my marriage and my religion. I must have dropped it while I was walking down the street. It was a bad day. Let me back up. I grew up Unitarian Universalist. I had a chalice necklace for a long time that I only sometimes wore. When I went to divinity school in 2009, I started to change so much that I didn't recognize myself. I began to feel that Unitarian Universalism lacked depth and symbolism, and I began to love Jesus with a passion. I prayed to a radically loving and forgiving God I'd never believed in before because I'd never needed God until then. I'd just finished a hospital chaplaincy internship. I just knew that I was going to die soon because I was 35. And if I live until I'm 70, then I'm officially middle-aged. And I only had a little bit of time left to make a difference in this world. What if Unitarian Universalism couldn't help me do that? My marriage was crumbling at the same time, and I was coming unhinged. It turns out it wasn't just my chalice necklace that was lost. So was my soul and my dignity. Has this ever happened to you? So I wandered up and down Commonwealth Avenue, wiping boogers and sobbing like my 7-year-old sobs when I'm mad at her, looking for my chalice necklace and actually saying out loud over and over again, what does it mean? What does it mean? I talked to my therapist and a mentor about this incident, asking them if it meant God wanted me to be a Christian and not a UU. They confirmed to me that, yes, I was coming unhinged. My mentor gave me one of her extra chalice necklaces and made me some soup. 2 years later, my sanity restored, I finally purchased a new chalice necklace at General Assembly in the shape of a cross. I thought, this is how I can honor the place I have come to in my spiritual journey, where Jesus and Unitarian Universalism hug on this cross. I wore it every day. People commented on it all the time. I thought you were a UU. Why are you wearing a cross? This made me feel very annoyed, and at the same time gave me the kind of self-satisfied pride that comes from rebelling against your mom. The week before my ordination, I returned home from church and realized that my chalice cross was missing from my neck. So I did what any totally sane 30-something does. I took to Facebook to ask my Facebook friends, what does it mean? And my Facebook friends said a bunch of things, from you need a better clasp on your chain, to it means you don't need outward symbols to know what's in your heart. The most useful advice of all was, get a tattoo, you can't lose that. The next day, I found my cross chalice with its chain missing in my inside coat pocket. So here's what gives me hope for the next time I'm feeling off the chain. When I am lost, I will always be found. I will always be found by the love that won't let me go. That love doesn't exist only in symbol. Instead, it almost always comes in the form of people. Talking sanity, making me soup, and telling me what it all means. I'll let you ponder that while you listen to our next song. Sometimes I choose only one reading in preparation for my musing, but sometimes I can't resist a second one. This is a reading called 8 Epitaphs by Joshua Leach. And it's about all the different kinds of people we are. Number 1, the cynic. I was the town cynic whose life was choked out by a hidden disease of the heart that I knew was there in my chest, but never told. And I carried it around with me and quoted verses to the people I met about the vanity and absurdity of it all, and made them weep. If only they could have seen that beneath my arch smile and the glint that came into my eyes of wicked humor, when they tried to soothe their own terrors, I clung to life. I loved it, I dare say, far more than they, who whispered to themselves comforting nothings, because I alone knew what it is to live, a heartbeat away from annihilation. The second epitaph, the prophet. I was the lonely soul who poured out her life to work for the benefit of uncounted millions and didn't go out or turn off the reading lamp long enough to get a drink with friends or learn what people were talking about when they talked about things in the news. And I thought that somehow if I read enough or helped enough souls to live a little bit longer, it would open to me some truth. But I never found it. And those I helped to go on living with a modicum of comfort and dignity never opened my eyes or revealed to me why any of us are here at all. The third epitaph from the guru. They all thought I had some answer that plainly eluded them, and that by yoga and yogurt and chopra and bland, flavorless meals stripped of any of the things human beings like to eat, I no longer feared death. But none of them was with me in the final moment, when the great vastness of time unfolded itself before me, and I clung with terror to the bedsheets. I might as well have eaten more sugar. The Reverend. I'd not really read those holy books and scriptures to which I always referred the sick souls and the dying, and the lonely people thinking about the point of it at all. Not to seminary, at any rate. But when my own time came, I assumed they would bring the comfort to me I had promised from their pages to others. But when I opened them in the last moments, I could not find myself or my world in the furious drops of flaming rage dribbling from the lips of the prophets and martyrs. And the only people in the book who evoked my sympathy were the ones whom the great cosmic powers seemed to scorn, Judas and Cain and the woman who pitied the sodomites and became a pillar of salt for their sake. Number 5, the faithless. In life, I spoke with venom about the empty hopes of the people I saw around me, and what weakling souls they seemed to delude themselves with false promises. But when I told them that death would come as a sweet, empty blackness like the state before I was born, and that I would no more fear it than the old reverend up at the church would be ashamed to meet his Savior, was that not a story and a myth, as comforting and baseless in its own way as that one from ancient Palestine? The powerful. I went to school with the prophet and the reverend and the guru and the faithless. I concluded that they would not find any answers to the questions they asked. They would consume their lives in such vain striving and never taste the sweet rush of success. But one time I hit an old dog with my car, an old mangy cur whom no one would miss. And it seemed to ask me a question that I desperately wished to answer. And I caught a glimpse of something distant, full of pain. And before I knew it, it was gone. And the questions fell silent. The joke. I was the scorned and the mocked, the butt of sophomoric humor. I had none of the consolations of sex or money, and did not possess the Teutonic genius to explain to myself my plight, or take comfort from a wry cynicism or a learned resignation. My pains were undisguised, undigested. Yet they who pitied me in life never knew that my life, mocked as it was simply asking me a question. And this question was answered by me, to my satisfaction. And those who still nurse their vanity and knowledge and cleverness and power don't have a clue. The eighth epitaph, the tame of death. I had always been prepared to be broken up by life. I had no expectation that I deserved better than the common human lot. I didn't think I was entitled to find my image in the stars, or to lead nations, or write symphonies. How funny then that I was the one who died without pain, surrounded by people I loved and who loved me, who cried for me, but not from despair, feeling a great peace and sense of repose. Isn't that strange? How others die and face death, and how it seems to them when the lights go out. I will never know. I've entitled my musing today, Why Are You Here? Going to church is so 20th century. Before Muhammad, before Jesus, before Buddha, there was Zoroaster. Some 3,500 years ago in Bronze Age Iran, he had a vision of the one supreme God. 1,000 years later, Zoroastrianism, the world's first great monotheistic religion, was the official faith of the mighty Persian Empire, its fire temples attended by millions of adherents. 1,000 years after that, the empire collapsed, and the followers of Zoroaster were persecuted and converted to the new faith of their conquerors, Islam. Another 1,500 years later, today, Zoroastrianism is a dying faith. Its sacred flames tended by ever few worshipers. If pressed, we know that religions are born, grow, and die. But we're oddly blind to that reality. When someone tries to start a new religion, it is often dismissed as a cult. When we recognize a faith, we treat its teachings and traditions as timeless and sacrosanct. And when a religion dies, it becomes a myth, and its claim to sacred truth expires. Tales of Egyptian, Greek, and Norse pantheons are now considered legends or Marvel comic book characters, not Holy Writ. Even today's dominant religions have continuously evolved throughout history. Early Christianity, for example, was a truly broad church. Ancient documents include yarns about Jesus' family life and testaments to the nobility of Judas. It took 3 centuries for the Christian church to consolidate around a canon of scriptures. And then in 1054, it split into the Eastern Orthodox and Catholic churches. Since then, Christianity has continued to grow and to splinter into even more disparate groups, from heretical Unitarians to snake-handling Pentecostalists. In New Zealand, nearly 1% of Kiwis told census takers they were followers of the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. That's more than those claiming to be Lutherans, Jewish, or Greek Orthodox. Those who believe their faith has arrived at ultimate truth reject the idea that it will change at all. But if history is any guide, no matter how deeply held our beliefs may be today, they are likely in time to be transformed or transferred as they pass to our descendants, or simply to fade away. I know my own faith journey has evolved significantly, and I have to say my descendants aren't carrying any of it forth. For 45 years, ever since I first began thinking about going to seminary, I've been holding the hand of a dear friend dying from a lack of popularity. After untold years of trying to answer questions no one is asking anymore, my religion is dying, more or less alone. I'm there for what it once was to me, not what it is. In New Zealand, where once nearly everyone was Christian, the 2018 census revealed that only 24% of the population still belonged to a major Christian denomination. Now 48% of the population claims to have no religion at all. So, why are you here for the wake? I'm sure you no longer believe, as the authoritarian church required our forebears to believe, impossible things that are contrary to our reason and scientific knowledge. Certainly you know of the church's many crimes against humanity, the many lives lost to preserve its power. You certainly agree with Robert Heinlein and John Adams. Robert Heinlein wrote, "Almost any sect, cult, or religion will legislate its creed into law if it acquires the political power to do so." John Adams in 1817 observed, "What a mercy it is that these people cannot whip and crop and pillory and roast as yet in the U.S. If they could, they would." I know I agree with Jack Spong, who wrote in his book, Reclaiming the Bible for a Non-Religious World, these insights. Religion at its core is based on the arrogance of believing that human beings not only can discern the way of God, but can also act in such a way as to control the actions of God. The human sense of fairness is read into the understanding of God. The human desire to control other people's behavior reinforces the usual theological wisdom that expresses itself in a reward and punishment mentality. Heaven and hell are nothing more than the assertion that the mind of God, as we human beings have created it, is still operating to reward or punish us after death. Religion almost inevitably creates God in the image of the human being, and then tries to force all of reality into that frame of reference, lest it otherwise prove to be inadequate. That is why there is no religious system that is eternal. That is why when human experience can no longer be interpreted adequately inside the traditional religious framework, the framework itself begins to die. So why weep? In part, it's because religion, in spite of its failings, has also nurtured our better angels in the past. Much of the good in the world can be put at the door of a religion. Its death does not discount that. At its funeral, we celebrate its life as it decomposes to enrich the soil from which a new paradigm will sprout. As Spong noted, the God of yesterday dies as we struggle to view the birth of the God of tomorrow. One notorious answer comes from Voltaire, the 18th century French polymath who wrote, "If God did not exist, it would be necessary to invent him." Because Voltaire was an acerbic critic of organized religion, this quip is often quoted cynically, but in fact he was being perfectly sincere. He was arguing that belief in God is necessary for society to function, even if he didn't approve of the monopoly the church held over that belief. Many modern students of religion agree. The broad idea that a shared faith serves the needs of society is known as the functionalist view of religion. There are many functionalist hypotheses, from the idea that religion is, in Karl Marx's famous words, the opium of the masses used by the powerful to control the poor, to the proposal that faith supports the abstract intellectualism required for science and law. One recurring theme is social cohesion. Religion brings together a community to meet its needs and purposes. Given this, we might expect the form that religion takes to follow the function it plays in a particular society, or as Voltaire might have put it, that different societies will invent the particular gods they need. Hunter-gatherers, for example, tend to believe that all objects, whether animal, vegetable, or mineral, have supernatural aspects. It's called animism. And that the world is imbued with supernatural forces, animatism. These forces must be understood and respected. Human morality generally doesn't figure significantly. This world view makes sense for a group too small to need abstract codes of conduct, but who must know their environment intimately. At the other end of the spectrum, the teeming societies of the West are at least nominally faithful to religions in which a single all-powerful God lays down and sometimes enforces moral instructions. Yahweh, Christ, and Allah. The psychologist Ara Norenzaya argues it was belief in these big gods that allowed the formation of societies made up of large numbers of strangers. The upshot is that sharing a faith allows people to coexist relatively peacefully. The knowledge that big God is watching makes sure we behave ourselves. Or at least it did. Today, many of our societies are huge and multicultural. We obey laws made and enforced by governments, not by God. Given all that, there is a growing consensus that the future of religion is that it has no future. Even in 1954, the God of yesterday was on life support, waiting for the... Oh, I'm sorry. I missed a great paragraph here. So why are you here? In 1954, Frederick Brown wrote a very short story called Answer, in which a galaxy-spanning supercomputer is turned on and asked, "Is there a God?" "Now there is," comes the reply. Even in 1954, the God of yesterday was on life support, waiting for the plug to be pulled. I'm here because I trust our common humanity requires a God for tomorrow, who is waiting in the wings to come on stage, offering a community that makes sense to me for today and will meet our society's complicated needs in the future. I'm a Unitarian Universalist because it's an adventuresome faith, prepared to go where no religion has gone before. I am in the front row, not wanting to miss a single word as the curtain comes up. So again, I ask, why are you here? It is time to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Well, let me close with our closing hymn and words. My closing words. May our faith sustain us, our hopes inspire us, and our love surround us as we go our separate ways, knowing that we will gather again in this beloved community. Now, I bet you can guess the conversation starter for this week. So, why are you here?